It's good to be black. Sorry, I mean it's good to do crack. Okay. I think that's like a drink for cowboys. Moon, moonshine happened during Prohibition in the 1920s. Yeah, if you stare at the moon, you stare at the moon too long, it could hurt your eyes. Oh my God, my face is so whitewashed. I look like a fucking ghost. I look like a ghost. You look like a regular. You have a regular skin tone. Dude, look at me. You you're you have darker skin than I do. Um, but I was making a joke like, um, it's good to be black, right? That was my joke, and then because then you'd say, "Oh no, um, I didn't mean to say that. I meant to say back." But then I doubled down and I said, "It's good to do crack," right? Because was it like Ronald Reagan that like did the crack thing? You know about this, right? Okay, okay, okay. So anyway, Barbarigamiss is like gas bubbles traveling through your intestines. No, everything, all the air going through your intestines before it becomes a fart. Yeah, but it's specifically when it's Barbarigamiss when it's moving through your intestines, traveling. It's audible. Which- Mm. Well, yeah, because I selected the word because it's goofy, and actually yesterday I was studying meridian points, the acupuncture points, and a few of the points help with Borborygmus. And so um, I guess I know how to pronounce things better in the terminology than some of my classmates. So when we got around to Borborygmus, everyone was like mumbling the word, and then I said it very clearly, Borborygmus. And then there was five other people there, and they all said Borborygmus at the same time. And it was pretty crazy because I just said it, and then we weren't doing like a call and response thing, right? But they all said it exactly at the same time, and then one of the people was like, "Oh, I feel like we're in a cult," and I should have said, I would be a great cult leader, um, but I just laughed and I said that Borborygamius was the cult leader to play it off easy. It's Borb. Um, Honestly, where's someplace that's super windy? Oh yeah, well that makes sense. So he's from the Netherlands, the Deutschland perhaps, and he lives on a wind farm, and we were just talking about like farts, right? And like the farts come out of uh, the nether regions, actually, you know. So yeah, from the Netherlands. So absolutely 100% Borborygmus is from the Netherlands. Yeah, internal wind plus external wind equals good time. Yeah. Well, I was just thinking that maybe um, if Muhammad Ali went to this ashram where this cult was in the Netherlands, um, you know, because they used to call him Cassius Clay, but oh, Cassius Clay was his birth name, and then once he converted to Islam, then he changed his name to Muhammad Ali. Um, but maybe if he was in the cult, then he'd be called Gaseous Clay or Bubbles or the intestines. Yeah, Michael Gasson. Who the fuck is that? Oh, he was one of the. He hasn't been famous yet, but he still did change his name. Oh, well, then there'd be Steve Fart for sure. They don't even sound like their last names anymore. Shaquille Queef Neal. The power of the cult was so strong that it brought him back to life. In Fart's name, we pray. Would they slap each cheek? Father, Son, and Fart. Mm. Improv what? I know, but would you use this what does that mean? Out of oh, those work. Those work. Yeah, that's what happened to me. I've been taking herbs, and sometimes there's a pot and there's some small holes that, like, filter out most of the herbs once you boil them, but some, like, of the seeds get through, and most of the time, it's okay, and then the last 20%, you kinda just have to, like, put your mouth around the edge of the cup just ever so slightly, like you're creating, like, a little filtration system, and then suck, like, a very small amount through while all the seeds hit the front of your lips. Um, it accumulates. Fucking weirdos. Crushing on a bean. What is that called when you like, are attracted to inanimate objects? Yeah. That's the slang term. I think it's even a medical condition. Oh, yeah. I think that's fake. But yeah, I mean, he could not mate with the car. He probably knows that. Oh, he actually programs the robots to be decrepit. Oh, oh, it only half works. Yeah. Mm. Yeah, I'm imagining like, when birds are first born, like they can't fend for themselves and they're very weak and like fragile. I'm just imagining like the robots are like baby birds for the length of their entire life. And they just have to live in there, and then the only way that the guy can feed them is he has to chew the food for them and spit it in their mouth. Yeah, it's called objectophilia. I looked it up. Yeah, it's a pretty straightforward name. Do you know what philia means? It means bad. Uh, Oh, affectionate love, yeah. I think the keyword here is affectionate. Um, maybe. I don't know. Human philia, I guess. Yeah, I think it's because we know pedophilia and like that whole we have determined all the sounds in that word are bad. Yeah, that's that's the first one. Uh, that's the main one. Are there other philias besides, I guess, objectophilia, which that's not wrong, but I immediately think that the name of it makes it wrong. Mm, dead. Yeah. Yeah. Oh god. People people do that. Whoa. Oh, shit. Oh, man. Yeah. It okay, there's a lot of them, dude. Um, lactophilia, sexual fetish for lactating breasts. So I think the in the definition, uh, philia has something to do with like intimate interactions with. Oh my god. No, God. There's one called there's one called nosophilia, which is sexual arousal NOSO, a and it's sexual arousal from knowing the partner has a terminal illness. Holy shit, dude. That's crazy. That's on Wikipedia. I'm looking at a list of, like, maybe, like, 150 philias. Uh, go ahead. No, so here's one, Christian Ophelia. Love or admiration of Christianity or Christian civilization. I guess based on the initial definition with um what is it called? There's the root is the beginning of the word. Is it the suffix? The ending of a word? Okay, but anyway, like the ending, uh the component philia in words, I think it has multiple applications. And the first few we talked about was like sexual arousal, and then this one was like just love or admiration for, but it's still on the same page because it has the same philia ending. Mm. Oh god. Um, yeah. I think that was the craziest one was Nosophilia. Uh, okay. There's one, Lesbophilia. Can can you guess what that is? No, no. So specifically for non-lesbians, having an erotic, uh, hold on. Yeah, an erotic fascination with lesbians. Specifically from non-lesbians. Yeah. Mm. What are you talking about? Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's not inherently there's these philias that are inherently bad, and then there are philias that can manifest as bad in certain situations. And then there's like Christianophilia, which is like this is just a recognition of an individual, an object, a person, a thing, a grouping. Oh, there was a mutation. Yeah, there was a mutation. Definitely. Necrophilia. Nation, nasophilia. That'd be crazy. That'd be crazy if like there was a skit where it was like someone finds out that they like need to amputate their leg and like it got infected and then they're gonna die and then like the guy you just see like him get a boner and that's the end of the scene but then there's a whole like 7-minute music video about nasophilia and that was part of the song. He did it. To make it a terminal illness, that's what happened? Oh god. Mm. It's it's something over here. I think it's white stuff and green stuff. Yeah. A little bit of brown stuff. Yes. Yep. Now you're learning American Sign Language. No, no. That was a joke. But did you know American Sign Language has nothing to do with English? Uh-uh. There's South African Sign Language, there's Native American Sign Language, there's um French. French, dude. It's everywhere. No, no, it's American. It's American. They're not they're not trying to speak English. The French Sign Language is not trying to speak French. It's completely separate from spoken language. Yeah, I think it's called British Sign Language. It's by region. Well, it's kinda like this, like, people in South Africa, I think, speak Swahili or something, right? Not every language is called like, Spanish is spoken all over the globe, right? So, yeah, it's just the people who are close to each other, they speak that sign language. Yeah, but the American Sign Language is actually mostly copied from the French Sign Language. So they had no, but you're now thinking again that it has anything to do with the English language. It literally has nothing to do with English. It was it was just because here, one second. I need to look up when it started in English in the United States. 1817. Um so basically I heard this story. There's basically this comedian that was on a podcast and he was talking about how his both of his parents were deaf and so he knows the whole backstory. But basically he was saying there was this guy in France and I think this is the early 1800s. He sees these twin deaf girls who have like created a way to speak to each other using their hands. And he somehow gestured to them that he wanted to learn how to speak that language too. So he learned their language, this these signs that these girls made because they were twins, right? They grew up together. They could have a lot of time to develop the language. He took that, he learned their language, he taught them French. So now they could take signs and convert it into French and write French on a board, right? The deaf people can't speak because they could never hear language. They don't know what they sound like. But through these three people, he learned their language, they learned his language, and they could both translate. That happened for a while, and then he hired some like really good teachers, right? And he had like an academy in France. One of his best people working at the school, he took like one of the smartest people in France. Them two moved over to the United States, and then they created American Sign Language. with the foundation of this French sign language. But based on the way they traveled to the United States, they went to this one island in New York where they had like the highest percentage of deaf people per capita, like in the entire country. And so they had their own sign language there because everybody lived on that island either was deaf, had a family member that was deaf, or had a friend that was deaf. So they converted a little bit of this new one, added it to the French one. Then once they actually got deeper into the United States, then there was like the Native American Sign Language, um, which was used to communicate between tribes. Like it was a common way to like do trade and stuff because they all had their own dialects and languages, right? So the combination of those three, so mostly French, a little bit about this, it's something something island, and then just like little hints of the Native American Sign Language, and that's how you get American Sign Language. He's just the guy who did it. He's just the guy who did it. And that doesn't matter like the country relations. I think it's just speaking people, hearing people don't give a fuck about it, dude. Did it okay. Yeah, okay. Late 18th century, uh that was in France, so around the same time. Here, history of American Sign Language. Mm. Yeah, the first documented one was in Paris in 1755. In France, yeah, dude. I think when it really popped off was the late 1700s in France. Hmm. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, so crazy. I think based on what this guy was saying, deaf people like hate people that can hear cuz cuz sort of what happened was they they found out about this new ASL, right? Where they could teach deaf people to speak and communicate amongst themselves. And so what they did was they would take them out like before they would go to just school with everybody else, right? And they would try to make accommodations, but they would always be interacting with the world of the hearing and the speaking, right? And like that would allow them to like live and socialize with and work within that system. But then when they figured out about ASL, then they created schools for the hearing impaired. And so like now you can only talk to people who are like you, and like created like this silo socially for these people. And so they fucking hate that they took them out of the schools, and so they even hate them so much that a lot of them don't want to get there's the new surgery where they can get some of their hearing back even if they've been deaf their whole life. Eh, yeah. Yeah, it's like a cochlear replacement. It's like a robot inner ear. And they a lot of them don't want to get it because they don't like people that hear. Mm. Yeah. Yeah. I think there's a lot to it though, because like prior to the late 1700s when this occurred, like these people were considered like mentally disabled. They were considered less than a a typical human, you know, and um a lot of that has to do perhaps with like without there being a standardized um language of communication and therefore language of thought. You know, like if we didn't have words, like how would we think stuff and how would we like process our daily lives and kind of like have aspirations without having a language. So prior to a standardized language, these people all they would really have is like a few gestures with like whoever they grew up with to like communicate within that social context, you know? And so maybe it was like certain just very basic gestures like that were like this way, that way, pointing to something, and all only that would allow you to that's all the basis for your thinking would just be these very, very basic things. Yeah. Well, I guess I can only imagine what it'd be like for me because in a certain way, I'm trying to develop that way of thinking again, you know? Like having my own way of thinking because like all the thinking with the words is sort of like an accumulation of other like people's ideas. So in a certain sense, I can sort of picture like that's been something I've been thinking about for a long time is like I've been sort of picturing like how do I think beyond words? Um so I can imagine that for me. What do you think it could be? Isn't that insane though? Isn't that just insane? Okay, so that's why you would probably like even if this person has like they've created a really coherent inner dialogue, it's going to manifest. The actions aren't necessarily going to make sense to other people. Like that's why they were considered mentally disabled is because their brain function is fine. It's just they're not thinking in the same way that other people are thinking. Um, so the whole idea was they hate that like they were oppressed for a long time just being thought of in the same category as somebody who had you know, a brain injury or they had an extra chromosome or something, you know? Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Wait, what has erased it? Y Yeah, it's a unique thing. It's where, like, people literally cannot speak for themselves, and so, like, they're a unique sort of minority, you know? They're a unique minority because they only have certain ways that they can represent their ideas in a world where, like, speaking has such an important role in our daily activities. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, and to be clear, yeah, so you're bringing up the point of people losing their hearing versus being born without it. And the people who are born without it, especially if they're older, when they get the implant, it's nowhere near the hearing of a typical person. It's like you can imagine, like their whole brain and their whole life has been mapped to a certain thing, not to be recognizing this incoming information from the ears, right? So when they put this in, it's like a screechy kind of robot sort of sound they're hearing. So it's not like a good nice sound. Um Clear. What's the written form of American Sign Language? Yeah, so it says here there's no written form of ASL. There are no newspapers, magazines, or books written in ASL, American Sign Language. Yeah. You could write the hands down, I guess. Yeah. But yeah, it's an oral tradition, which is like it's a manual language. So it's always just learned by speaking it, by signing it. Yeah, crazy. I think pictures, dude, and I think, like, some people here, even if they do know, the English language, for instance, that they can think using pictures, like, they could just be incredibly visual people, and a lot of the times, I'm thinking in pictures. So, I think it would just come back in, like, kind of like an interesting, like, sort of slideshow thing and, like, moving pictures to, like, be representing, like, a thought processes. Yeah, yeah. It's just deaf people, but and then you just hear the internal dialogues as pictures. Dude, that'd be so crazy. Oh, right. It would just it would be crazy, dude, and I'm just like so in this movie, they would have to be doing sign language with subtitles on the screen, right? Unless this movie was only for, people who spoke ASL, which it could be, and maybe they do have films like that. Yeah, yeah, so if they made this film, they would be signing the whole time, and then it's also a sci-fi movie because they can read each other's minds, right? Or at least one person can read other people's minds? Or are we the audience just seeing what the person in the scene is thinking? Dude, that'd be such a cool thing to have in a film, even if it's not related to sign language at all. Like, just imagine, like, it's a sort of like an animated film or it has a certain, like, texture to, like, the production to where, like, you could, like, have people, but then, like, during different parts of their internal experience, like, the colors of their body would change or, like, there'd be certain, like, images that represent uh, subjects of the thought at the time, like, just flashing, like, in their head, like, a little bit, or, like that'd be crazy. That'd be insane. That'd be such a different way of conveying thought because or emotion or, sensibility because right now we have music, right? We have words, and then we have, like, emotional, uh, recreations. There's not Go ahead. Um, Movies by deaf people, they exist. I don't know if about specifically their brain, specifically representing their thoughts. They may be represented in other ways, like deaf artists might like if they were painters, maybe they would like have that represented there. But in a film, I think it's a lot rarer to be a writer because I guess writing is in some way like musical, you know? It like has cadence and it has like rhythm, I guess. And rhythm can be felt too. Like he was saying that deaf people like love techno music, right? Because it's like some a lot of bass that you can like actually feel as opposed to hear. But um what was I saying, dude? I was saying something about directing the movie. So I yeah. So they would be um they because there is no newspaper or magazines or anything. I'm certain that they learn English in their deaf schools, right? So they know how to read the language. They have to. They have to do street signs. Like they can do most things, right? And you can think in English. Braille, yeah. Or just find somebody who never learned English or a written language. It exists. It exists, dude. There's no way that there's not just a person that only knows sign language in this world. Oh, your parents would be speaking English, you would hear English. They would teach you English. They would have to grow up in a deaf community that doesn't sp put any English signs up. Why couldn't there be, like, a group of people that grew up and understand English, and then they create this whole, like, new society where they came from that world, and then a new person is born and grows up in there? why wouldn't that allow them to be a director, or a writer of this film? Yeah, similar context. Yeah, it's similar context, but, like, the they still don't have the linguistic representation of these processes, so it's inherently more abstract. Mhm. Yeah, dude. Yeah, dude, the context is literally everything in thinking and experience and action. It's, honestly insane, and this is a really good example because it's, like, this group of people with very specific characteristics. Um, yeah, so when it comes down to it, we cannot escape the context. All we can find is someone who has, like, the least amount of characteristics that are from, like, this, culture while still having some sort of relevance to us, right? So, like, if they're completely removed from all other societies, like, how would they know what a movie is, and how would they know what to write, and that there would be this video screen that this thing was gonna be coming out of, right? So, they would have to know a certain amount to accept whatever the offer would be to write this film. They would have to know what it is, have some sort of context. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, almost closer to sign language in a way. Yeah, insane, dude, language. I'm gonna have to get going, um, but we hit a good topic there of deafness. Just over an hour. Yeah. Cool. Cool. Well, it should be. Just my dad's here. So we're gonna hang out. Yeah, yeah, Get it? Get it though? 'Cause I'm signing to the